All right. Well, good morning, church. It's good to meet with you at Stonebrook again. I'm currently in Loveland, Colorado. My name is Pat Sokoll. I'm one of the pastors here in the Front Range, and I'm just so excited to hear what you guys are doing in Ames in this 40 days of looking in the past and how God has affected the world, really, through the ministry of Stonebrook Community Church. And I just want to tell you a little bit of my story and tell you how grateful I am to have that as my history, to have that place in my life that I was imprinted with so many values. When I first came to Jesus, I was very much a wild man. I was a cretin. I absolutely had no business being an object of God's grace, and yet somehow God reached down and saved me. And one of the things that He really revealed to me and used to draw me was this desire to know Him, to really walk with Him, to have a life experience with Him. And one of the very first things, and way back in 1980, one of my very first experiences as a very young believer was to connect with a small group from what was at that time Ames Fellowship Church at a little camp in Des Moines, Iowa. Went up, spent the weekend with them, and I was absolutely blown away by this devotion and how loud and often and how much they sang and prayed and loved each other and served, and there was just this clarity of what they were giving their lives to, and it began to set a pattern for me. Through a number of circumstances, I ended up getting involved with the Navigators for a short season of time. Actually, the guy that led me to the Lord was a Navigator at Iowa State University, and their focus was more dorms, and I'd moved off campus, and so a number of young men from the church there in Ames came and began to follow me up a little bit and meet in my very rundown home and endure all my youth and indiscretion and foolishness, and really just began to love me. And they invited me to the fall retreat, and that was one of the turning points in my life. I absolutely look back to that time, and that was really the first time that I began to get a clarity of what it meant to know God, to follow God, to have a purpose, and to really give my life to something that was bigger and grander than anything I could ever imagine. And I'm so grateful. Probably Scott Hansen was mixing sound at that conference way back in 1980, and from that time, I was just immersed in this grace. Had a girlfriend who's now my wife, and I can't imagine what was going through some of the minds of the church there is this very rough guy with this incredible past and manner. They just showered me with grace, and yet at the same time, they were showing and revealing to me this pattern of love and mercy and devotion that absolutely imprinted me. From that time, I had a vision that I wanted to serve God, whatever it looked like, with my whole life. Whether that was a full-time pastor or not. In 1992, I was raised up as a pastor there. I've gone on to be involved with a couple church plants, and even now, in just a couple months, I'm going to go do a marriage conference in East Asia that could have a huge impact all over the Asian continent. And so, what I was imprinted there with, the grace, the mercy, the heartfelt devotion, is all very much still a part of my life. It's a little odd for me to even think of you all sitting there watching this and, well, who am I? What have I ever done? And yet, whatever I am, I truly owe to what I was given in those very early days of my faith. My prayer for you all, and I wrote just down a couple things, I don't want to remember this, but my prayer for you all was that you would really continue to pursue with a wholehearted devotion that I was given, as the family of faith called Stonebrook would really do that and would remain just as it started, that you'd continue to resist the current of the culture, being truly hot for Jesus, as it says in Revelations, enjoying Him as your first love, and together as a family, advancing His kingdom until He returns. And of all the gifts I've been given as a human being, there is nothing I count as valuable as the love and the imprinting and the picture of Jesus that I was given in my days in Ames, Iowa, and the church now known as Stonebrook. And I thank you all for continuing to serve Him and love Him, and that'd be my prayer, that you would be blessed as you pursue His kingdom. Thanks a lot. Have a great time looking at the last 40 years and maybe many, many more until the Lord returns.